Hello everybody, just doing a little test real quick. There we go, making sure my sound's all good. So hopefully, well, this is my last stream with stay-at-home convention. So showing off my game more today, and I have 30 minutes today, so let's see what we can do. So I just want to check a few things, just fast forward 5 seconds here. Alright, so I put a link in my own Facebook page to the rulebook. So if you want to check that out, it's a work in progress, but we have a rulebook by Jeff Fraser. And if you want to check things out, alright, it's a slow open. Some of the art needs to be updated, of course, but there it is. You can check that out. Alright, today I want to talk about the gameplay. And I know sometimes gameplay can get drawn out, especially after like 20-30 minutes of talking. So I'm going to try to make it interesting. Really quick before I do so, remember you can go to usiakgames.com. So USIAK games.com for updates. You can go to my Facebook page for updates for skeptics. I'm on Board Game Geek currently, work in progress. And I have a Kickstarter page, kind of a work in progress as well. So, anyway, I am John Usiak, so I should have introduced myself first. Teacher of game art, illustration, anatomy, a bunch of other stuff. I've done other freelance work for board game art, including, I forgot to mention this yesterday, Everything Epic. So I did a few game tiles for them, because they saw this board, and I guess they got excited, and I did kind of a similar art. So if you're familiar with some of their games, I did work on Coma Ward and what's the other one? Secret of the Lost Stations. I helped them out with. So if you like what you see here, you'll probably like their games. So cool. So I just want to run through the how to play. Let's make sure I didn't forget anything here. Oh, by the way, I do have a lot of flyers. If you want to help me out, come October, or actually around August or September, I'm going to start promoting. So if you want to help me out, I can mail you some flyers and, I don't know, dish them out. It'll be awesome if you do so. Cool. So, alright. This will be, I keep changing tangents here. Kickstarter, October is the hopeful Kickstarter date for this game. So what you see here is pretty much what you get aside from changed artwork. And I'm going to show you something I worked on last night. So, there we go. So here I worked on the room card update. So you can see, if you notice here, this is the original, designed by one of my students. And then here, I did this last night. I just felt like it came together more with some of the other artwork. Hopefully you can see that. Sometimes my OBS Studio doesn't show the top. So hopefully you see that. But here, now these three cards right here are kind of more together. They're tied in with the game more. So this was the original, and then this was the original environment card. So I just took out some of the artwork. So it's always going to be a work in progress until the final, but I think I'm getting closer and closer to that look. Alright, so, whoa, that Windows thing, you move something over and everything gets kind of disappears. So everyone's used to showing their game off in their camera. I want to show it in 3D, and I'm going to take my face off here. Hopefully you guys stick with me. Just put me on ×2 speed if you want later. Go through it faster. Alright, so it's going to be more of an overview today of how to play this. I did the setup already, so you can look at the rule books, the rule book on how everything's set up. But I kind of did that, left a few straggler pieces over here, and I kind of set everything up in 3D here with a few other side pieces. So everyone's going to start at the entrance. So it's a 1 to 4 player game, but if one player has to control 2 characters. And I'll just demo on like 1 or 2 of these guys. So the object of the game, if you saw my stream yesterday or the day before, is to, like I explained, you have to knock out all these symbols on this ghost card to win the game. And you have to do this before this room card expires, and you draw a card every hour. And I'll explain that in a second. So when you draw a room card, and I have one sticking out here because there's no back to it, room 13, when you draw that at midnight, the ghost will show up in room 13. So you got to move your character or your investigators as many spaces as you can or allowed to that space, roll your default dice, plus any bonuses, and try to knock out these symbols. So when you complete them all by this blue marker, you win the game. Alright, so there's a lot of hindrances, though. It's not as easy as you think. And if you look, the die right here has 3 sides are eyeballs, 2 sides are cameras, and 1 is a cobweb. So he doesn't have any cobwebs on here, but you can see he's pretty easy compared to other ghosts. So other ghosts are a little more difficult, like this guy. And each ghost has their own ability. So his ability, when he shows up, the room he appears in, any door next to him will close. So if you open this via action, like I'll explain that in a second, he will close that door. So if he's next to like these 2 doors and these are open, like say a character came in and unlocked those, he will close them back up. So he could be kind of annoying. Alright, so let's open this rulebook and show you what it's all about. I gotta try to make this exciting because most games you can explain in like 2 minutes and you're done. This is a little more, this is kind of like the Arkham Horror Fantasy Flight. Not as lengthy as those rule books, but it can be. But it's an easy read, and that's because I made it. But I have a ton of people read this book, and they say it's pretty easy to follow. And with the new design by the guy who did my book, it's really easy to follow. And once the artwork is updated, it's going to be even easier. But everyone's going to take a turn. All right, so if you're playing, no matter how many characters, everyone takes a turn, and you get 3 actions on your turn. You can move, you can unlock, you can search, and searching involves these little blue icons. And you'll see on here, you'll have these little things on top of these icons in the beginning of the game during setup. You put these on these spaces. All right, and searching just involves you matching this symbol by the roll of 3 dice. So everyone starts with 3 dice. They start out with 3 key dice and 3 clue dice. So when you roll, if you match that symbol, you reveal that token. Alright, so I will get to that in a second. I just want to explain. So move, run, unlock, search, solve. So solve action has to do with clue cards. I'll explain that in a second. And then you can pick up, give, or exchange an item as an action. If you're on the same player's space, I pretty much don't have to go in depth with that because it's pretty simple. You just switch over an item, give an item to somebody else, or take one of theirs, and if you're in the same space. Alright, this prove, pull, and summon action has to do with the ghost. So I'll explain that in a moment. So I'm trying to see if I can do any pop-up art to keep your interest here. So there's a lot going on. But it's a relatively simple game. So 3 actions. So maybe I want to move this guy maybe this is the first player, alright? So you get to move 3 spaces. Actually, I'm going to put this over here. So you can move like 3 spaces. You can move and then do a search action. So that's this. And here I would have to roll an eyeball. Alright, so I come to my dice and then you roll them. And if you get an eyeball, you match that. And you flip that token over. And once it's flipped, you just remove it from the game. Now eventually you're going to get through all of these. But by the time you're on the last one, the room deck will probably be run out. Or just depends on how good your characters do here. So when you reveal one of these tokens, you can have an item. So I'm going to show you these. So all this artwork. So this is all 3D art and done in Photoshop too. So one of my students did this one, which doesn't look, I don't know if it feels like out of place with the rest of the items, but these are all the items you can get. And they all do different things. So like get an extra key die, get an extra search action or solve action, you can move extra. So all these items. Right? And then you also have special items. There's going to be only 3 in the setup, but that's the other token you can get, and you have a range of special items. Right? And you can only hold 3 items, but you can hold as many special items as you want. Alright, we have a nothing here. So I kind of got this idea from an old game called Mystery Mansion. When you flip over a card after searching, you get a nothing here token. So, or card, and it's just pretty much a cobweb. So you get nothing. And you get a clue. So that's the other option. So he has technically one more action left. So if I solve that, I can move somewhere else. All right. Like the next player, so say he's next, he can come over and unlock a door. So one action is unlocking. So it's the same as searching. You just roll 3 dice, and if you match, you get to open the door. So you remove her from the game, unless a ghost somehow adds that later. You remove it, it's done, you opened it. Now, if you notice there's a ×2 here in this symbol, it means you need 2 key dice. So say, for example, and this is for searching too, say you only roll 1 key. Let's do this. This is kind of like inspired by Fantasy Flight, Arkham Horror. Say you only roll 1 key, you can actually save this die, and you can re-roll these 2 as your additional action. So if you say you have another action left or 2 left, you can roll again. All right, if you miss again, you can roll again, and then you can try to get that second key. And there's other doors on the game. Sorry, I'm like all over the place. Like 3 keys to open this one. All right, 2. But once it's gone, it's removed unless an environment card or the ghost like closes it. Cool. So, all right. So the same thing with searching. You can save dice, and then if your actions run out, though, you can't. You have to reset everything. Or if you're switching to a different icon, like if you're searching this door, and you're like, oh, I want to search over here, you got to reset everything. All right. So I'm gonna just use 2 players in this example. So let's take these guys out, get them out of there. All right. So when their turn is done, so both of their turns, you just take this clock piece and you move it to the 15-minute increment. That's why all these are kind of grayed out. So you just focus on the 12, the 3, the 6, the 9. All right. After everybody takes their turn a couple times, so this doesn't matter if it's 3-player, 4-player, you move it 15 minutes. It's all balanced out. So at the midnight, this is the ghost hour. This ghost is going to appear in a random room. So let's just say it's 13 because that's the only card I have that has a room number. He's going to appear in that room. And he'll use any ability that ghost has. So his is closing doors. If you're using a poltergeist, he might throw objects at you. There's a couple other ones. I can't remember. Yeah, there's other factors involved with the other ghosts. But for this one, let's just say he closes the door. And then what I got to do, I got 1 round to move to this ghost. So he can move here because he was here, and he can move here for first action. For second action, what he's going to try to do is knock out these symbols. So he'll take these dice, and he'll try to roll against these. Now with this ghost, you have to get these first, but that's just another lingering effect here. So say I roll say I want to go for this one. You have to choose which one you want to go for. So if I roll the 2 eyeballs in the camera, you just take that blue marker and just pop it over here, and you work on the next one until all your actions are done. Right? And then say this guy was like over here too, or he was over here and the door was open, or something like that. He could do 1 move, 2nd move, and then his turn he can roll the dice and say, maybe I want to get this one, and you have to specify. Now if he misses, you can re-roll the die as long as you have more actions left. So I wish there was people asking questions because I feel like I can go on. Like, put me on times 2 speed. Don't quit now. Got to get through that, or just watch later. All right, so this is called a solve action. So we have search actions on the board and solve actions here on the. Or I'm sorry, this is prove actions. A ghost is a prove action. Solve is for clue cards. So search action on the board. So that revolves around rolling 3 dice plus bonuses, and the prove action is for the ghost. So this matters when you get specific items that allow you to get bonuses for prove, search, or solve actions, and that's what these are. So for the most part, I explained. There's just a little bit more to talk about. I could go into further depth, but like all this stuff is explained in the rulebook. I just want to hit the key points. So the next one is the solve action. See, I jumped ahead to prove, but that's okay because he shows up at that hour. Oh, and one thing, At that hour, you have to draw an environment card first, and you'll probably get some little obstacle. Like here, you're not allowed to use summon dice or limited, and I'll explain that in a second. Alright, so the other option when you search, you might find a clue. So that entails one of these clue cards. And it's the same thing, except this is called a solve action. You just take your dice, try to match the symbols, and if you miss, you can re-roll. You can try again next turn. Alright, and these little counters just tell you where the clue was in case you want to come back to it. So say this clue is too hard, you're like, I want to do this later. You can set that up to where you found that clue. So it's pretty cool. Alright, so what happens when you solve this clue? Alright, well, you take it away. You just throw it away in the game box. Alright, it's done. Well, what that does, you're going to be allowed to flip one of these little evidence tokens over. Alright, and you get one of these little summon dice. Summon die. So the more clues you solve, and there's going to be 7 total, the more dice you get, and the more evidence tokens you flip over. So I'll explain this part, and that's probably going to be it, because I don't want to keep forever with the minor stuff. So the summon dice, let me explain this first, is another set of actions you could do. So once you have one, you could start doing pulling and summoning. So to pull a ghost, if he's on the board, so say he shows up room 12 and you're right here, right? And you're like, you know what? I don't want to move there. Like, I'd rather pull him so this guy doesn't have to move later. So what you can do is roll the amount of dice you have. So say you have like 3 of these or whatever. If you roll at least one of these symbols, you can pull them 2 spaces. So now you can pull the ghost 1, 2. And then you could do the rest of your actions to knock out those symbols and try to win the game. If you miss, if you don't roll a symbol, you got to be careful. He will disappear. And he'll show up again next hour. Yeah, everyone entertained so far? Alright, good. So remember, if you miss on a pull, he disappears. So the more you have, the better. So you want to take that risk. And I've played many times where I had 1 die and I made it. It's a 1 in 6 chance on these dice. So the other thing you could do, so say he's not on the board, as long as it's not on midnight or the ghost hour, so say it's like right here, like on 15, you can summon the ghost. So it's the same thing. You just roll the amount of dice you collected, so how many clues you solved, and if you get one of these symbols, he appears on the board. If he misses, well, I'll explain that. Or if you miss, I'll explain that in a second. So when you roll one of these, and you summon him, you draw a room card, and the thing about drawing a room card, when you summon him, he doesn't use his, like, close the door ability or whatever the ghost ability has. And you don't have to draw an environment card if you summon him. So say you draw a room card and he appears at room 12, like I said, then you can try to pull him for an action. So you maybe get the gist of it now. Alright, if you miss on a summon, you draw a room card blindly, you just put it aside, and you kind of waste that deck. Remember this, when this deck runs out, the game ends. Alright. So I think lastly, I can explain these evidence tokens. You see there's, every ghost has these symbols. Like they're all different on every ghost. All that matters is what one you choose of these. Like every time you solve a clue, you flip one of these over, as well as collecting one of these dice. If you match the symbol, let's find one that matches. There you go. If you match it, then cool. Like if you get all 4 of these, you can do a seance. So you have to get all 4 of these. And when you seance, you don't have to summon them, you don't have to pull them, you can just pop them right in your space, and then you can work as a team to knock all these out really quick. There's other factors involved, like turn orders ignored when you seance and a couple other things, but those are minor details. So I want to talk about the major stuff right now. I'm trying to keep this demo a little short. The other thing too, though, when you get all these, not only can you seance, but he goes into something called ghost mode, and this will probably be the last thing I talk about. Ghost mode, you probably want to avoid if you can in the beginning. But if you get all those evidence tokens, he will start showing up every 15 minutes on the board. And you still draw an environment card at the ghost hour, but he'll show up every 15 minutes, exhausting this room deck. And remember, when this expires, the game ends, right? And you lose. The other thing, too, the other way to get ghost mode is if you reveal all 7 clues. So you got to be careful, too, if you over-search and get too many. And I'm not talking about solving, I'm talking about just getting them. Like, just revealing them. He goes into ghost mode, too. I think that's it, though, for the rules. I don't want to go crazy because I know, like, these can get long and drawn out. And if you look at the rule book and you're like, oh, it's 20 pages, but you got to understand that the first, like 5 pages are intro and setup. And once you know how to set the game up, it's only pretty much page 6 to, like, 17, I think. Not even. So there's just little extra things. So maybe like 10 pages of real rules that you really need to watch. And by the way, if someone was watching my stream yesterday and you couldn't comment, I have no idea why. I teach all the time using this, and like people can comment all the time. So if you're watching, hello, welcome to my game. Hopefully, like I said, it wasn't too drawn out there. Again, there's another board that can be on the back of this, a museum. So this follows the same rules, just a different layout. So I only have a few minutes left. I had a 30-minute time slot today, so I thought it was best to explain the rules. So it's kind of a small, like, stayatHome.com feels like a small group, so I don't think I'll get hit with many questions, but if you're here and you want something repeated, let me know. Like, how long did it take you to do this art? Thanks, good question. 4.5 years. It's been a long time. I gotta see, somebody... Quick, someone's reacting to my link. Cool. Hello to my reaction. I have a few minutes. I don't want to just end because this is the last day. I want to kind of idle, free to go, or like I said, put me on ×2 speed. I watch people all the time on ×2. So I will show you once again the artwork. I revisited some things yesterday. Like, here's the original room card, and this is the update. So I'm just going through, and this is all Photoshop. Like, I would open up Photoshop now, I feel like it would slow my stream down a little bit. But I just started blocking in shapes, creating some textures over this. And that's what I do. I'm a video game artist. I do texture design, modeling. I do all that stuff. And I'm implementing it into the board game stuff. So that's what I did for everything Epic. I did some 3D and texture work. These 2 cards need updates. I feel like they don't match the style just yet. Again, one of my students did these 2, and wonderful job. I just need to change some things. That's all. Cool, so I have a few minutes left. I know the person that's watching is probably a little behind, so if you have questions, it's going to be probably later that I'll see that. So here's that horrified card. Oh, and then there's going to be different cards, like 5 cards for the asylum and 5 different ones for the museum. And then you have your regular common cards. So I didn't want to go into the whole setup of the game. If you like how it's played, you can worry about the setup later. The point is, I just wanted to make sure that I'm catching your interest on these cards. Here, I can show you the extra ghost. This guy has been updated, though. Instead of this vertical look, I went horizontal. Actually, I can probably get that. So I have a few more minutes to show a few things. Let's see, final art. So I had a whole folder of all my JPEGs here, and here they are, the ghost. So what's really cool about these ghosts, and I gave credit to another student, well, here's the update on the Restless Spirit guy. Each of these has a story in the back. So here's the twins, of course my daughters. It just talks about a little bit of their history, how they ended up being ghostly twins. So every single one of these ghosts has a cool little like thing going on, a little story. And I even took this and put it in the typewriter just so everything matches. The photo down here matches. Just made everything nice and consistent. And my student did the background art. So, pretty cool. at 6 minutes. 6 minutes to go. Feel free again. Skeptics is my website, usiakgames.com. You can find it on Facebook. Board Game Geek, which is going through an update. And Kickstarter, hopefully October. There's a lot to do. I mean, I'm like maybe 90% done with the artwork. But again, 4 years in the making. Like, this started out as crude drawings. Cool. Don't forget to check out that rulebook link. Let me know what you think. I think it'll be a good game. I'll just tell you the history about the game since I have a few minutes. As far as playing the game, I played this over 500 times. I don't know, maybe in the 800s now, 1,000 maybe. I don't know. It's just a lot. Even like I'd play by myself. I only had one person not care for it because they didn't like dice mechanics. But even the ones that like dice mechanic games, really, they kind of like this game. Even ones that didn't like co-op games found this okay. I could name some names of the people who I'm talking about that don't like co-op and they liked it, but I'm not going to do that. It's fine. So, easy to play once you understand the rule. And it's fun. It gets really intense because sometimes the cards are down, the room cards are down to the last 2 cards here, and you're like scrambling to try to meet the ghost. So sometimes he'll appear like over here, and you just can't make it there. So there's like a secret passage item card you can use. There's a secret passage over here that you can like go over here, so you can bounce back and forth between the rooms. So cool. I think I'm going to end there. There's no point in drawing out another 4 minutes just to fill up the time. So hopefully this is something you'll like. If you are Arkham Horror inspired or Fantasy Flight, this is a step down as far as the how hard this is, or the difficulty with the rulebook. But I think you'll enjoy it. Alright guys, thank you very much. Thank you for the stayatHome.com, or Stay at Home on Facebook, sorry, and letting us give us this opportunity here to show our work. All right, thank you.